You entered the world sometime between 240 and 245 AD in a region known as Moesia, the ancient Balkans. The landscape is harsh and unforgiving, populated by people whose first instinct is hostility rather than hospitality. Your father serves as a Roman auxiliary soldier, a man hardened by years of service who communicates primarily through barked orders and discipline. Your mother is Thracian, which creates an interesting household dynamic. Half the time, you struggle to understand her native tongue, and her evening rituals, involving chanting in darkened rooms, leave you wondering whether she's deeply devout or invoking something otherworldly. Either way, she's family. The watchtowers looming over your settlement house guards who spend endless hours scanning the horizon with unwavering vigilance. They protect the canopy, your home. Adjacent to these towers stands a Roman fort bristling with soldiers, your father among them. Dawn breaks not with birdsong, but with the cacophony of military drills. Shouting, metal clanging, hundreds of men preparing as if battle might erupt at any moment. In Moesia, that's not paranoia, it's reality. You don't yet grasp that survival here operates on the highest difficulty setting. When the garrison fails, civilian families pay the ultimate price. Pleasant dreams, child. Despite being born in what amounts to a war zone, you possess one critical advantage: Roman citizenship. In this era, that status functions like an exclusive pass to avoid destitution. Moesia isn't some peaceful backwater, it's the empire's buffer zone. When enemies decide to test Rome's boundaries, your home absorbs the first blow. At 10 years old, you and your companions brandish wooden swords, reenacting battles with excessive enthusiasm and accumulating dirt in every conceivable crevice. Meanwhile, your fathers engage in actual combat, until pretend warfare transforms into genuine preparation. Your settlement maintains a tradition. Once children demonstrate basic physical competence, they enter preliminary training. The official explanation? Preparation for potential barbarian raids that could reduce everything to ashes. The additional benefit? Early readiness for military service. These training sessions prove brutal. Imagine running miles with weighted packs while a centurion delivers relentless verbal motivation. By midday, collapse seems imminent. By evening, it feels welcome. But exhaustion offers no respite. As a Roman boy, you're expected to master Latin. Your instructor? The same father who's been drilling recruits all day. He now redirects that intensity toward your education. You'd prefer almost anything to another lecture on grammatical declensions. Nodding off during these lessons results in memorable physical reminders. You learn to fight sleep itself. After months of demanding drills and language instruction, you achieve basic competency: conversational Latin and functional spear-throwing technique. Congratulations, you've graduated to a worse situation. You become an errand runner for armed men, cleaning equipment that reeks of sweat and mortality, delivering messages like an overworked courier. There's no compensation for this labor. You're essentially an unpaid apprentice in ancient Rome. Previously, you only endured physical training. Now you're engaged mentally, practically, and constantly stressed. Childhood has been officially terminated. At 15, everything changes. News arrives that Emperor Valerian has been captured, an unprecedented catastrophe. The aftermath brings pure disorder. The empire fragments into three competing entities like a catastrophically failed group endeavor. Economic chaos follows. Prices skyrocket, social order deteriorates, and soldiers, including your father, stop receiving wages because nobody can determine which authority controls financial operations anymore. Your diet shifts from meat and porridge to stale bread and boiled millet when available. Your father's impoverished, food prices are impossible, and everyone maintains a facade of normalcy while suffering internally. While the empire disintegrates like poorly constructed infrastructure, you experience your first existential crisis, Roman style. You find yourself staring into space, questioning everything. What purpose does my existence serve? Is this the entirety of my future? Bread, training, and disillusionment? You face exactly one viable path: military service. Not because it's your aspiration, but because alternatives don't exist. You lack specialized skills, money to acquire them, or means to travel safely to Rome, where you'd likely face robbery or violence anyway. Besides, everyone expects you to serve. Protect Rome as your father did, they insist. You observe your father, unpaid, overworked, spiritually depleted, and think about how inspiring that sounds. Nevertheless, you enlist. At 17, they recruit you. You swear the sacred military oath to serve Rome unto death, which could realistically arrive next week. In exchange, you receive a sword with considerable history and armor that carries the scent of previous failure. You're now officially serving in the auxiliary cohorts, following your father's footsteps, legacy achieved. Days later, you receive your first assignment. Training? None. Instead, you're ordered to pack for an extended march directly into hostile territory. When Rome faces manpower shortages, the solution apparently involves deploying inadequately trained teenagers into dangerous situations. The march proves agonizing. Whatever physical conditioning you believed you possessed proves insufficient. Your feet develop severe damage, your back suffers, and you seriously reconsider every decision that led here. Upon arrival, there's no recovery period. You're immediately assigned duties: standing guard in freezing conditions, digging trenches manually, cleaning foul-smelling latrines, and burying deceased soldiers. Fort existence is harsh and soul-destroying. The single element preventing complete mental breakdown? Your companions. You discover others experiencing identical misery. You share meals, endure hardships together, and exchange humor during brief respites from exhaustion. That unspoken mutual support becomes your sole reason for maintaining sanity. One foggy morning during routine patrol, cold, tired, and miserable, you detect movement in the mist, initially just indistinct shapes, slowly advancing. You alert your companion, whispering urgently. He squints, then confirms. The Goths, and they haven't arrived peacefully. Panic strikes. You sound the alarm frantically. What follows is absolute chaos. The Goths charge aggressively, but Rome possesses advantages they lack: disciplined formations and collective combat experience. You and your fellow soldiers lock shields, maintain position, and momentarily succeed. Then Gothic reinforcements arrive. Suddenly, it's not a battle, it's a slaughter. You witness friends falling, your commander brutally killed, fort structures consumed by flames. The air becomes thick with smoke, blood, and ash. Some soldiers attempt escape. Fatal mistake. Fleeing simply makes them easier casualties. You fight. You've killed more Goths than you can track. But it's insufficient. You're drenched in blood, barely standing, completely outnumbered. Then you see them, your friends, half buried in mud, faces contorted in agony. They died defending a crumbling empire governed by disconnected elites who feast while pretending concern. If fortunate, they'll receive crude wooden markers. Otherwise, they simply become part of the earth. You refuse that fate. With blood obscuring your vision and fury consuming your chest, you rally the remaining survivors. Through shouting, physical force, and sheer determination, you restore formation. Against impossible odds, you repel the Goths. But there are no celebrations, no honors, no commemorations, just corpses, smoke, and silence. You survived your first major engagement, but the cost was devastating. Your superiors notice. Apparently, surviving massacre while forcibly organizing half-dead soldiers into formation demonstrates leadership potential. They promote you to Optio, a junior commander position. You're not commanding an entire cohort, but you now issue orders instead of solely following them. Your qualification? Witnessing friends die. Somehow that earned advancement. There are perks, a theoretical pay increase, though Rome still owes your father 3 months back wages. The genuine advantage? You're removed from frontline combat. You direct rather than personally charging into destruction. It's safer, not safe, just safer. While you process trauma in heavy silence, Rome continues fragmenting. The divided empire's various regions engage in internal conflict instead of confronting external enemies. You recognize this as foolish. Fortunately, you're not alone. Finally, someone takes action. Aurelian, a cavalry commander with genuine resolve, the type who acts rather than requesting permission, declares himself emperor. You respect him immensely. When he asks the Danubian legions, including yours, to help forcibly reunite Rome, you don't hesitate. You commit. You follow Aurelian not from blind loyalty, but because he might actually salvage what remains. Aurelian's first target on his imperial restoration campaign, the Palmyrene Empire, a breakaway state. He crushes it decisively. Next objective, the Gallic Empire. This proves more challenging. These battles are prolonged, bloody, and relentless, the kind that break men and transform them into haunted shells. You're deployed ahead with a small detachment to secure a strategic route. Simple mission: block the path, prevent enemy infiltration. Then, ambush. Gallic forces strike hard and fast. You barely raise your sword before half your detachment is eliminated. Supplies are lost. You're left severely wounded on rocky terrain, wondering if this marks your end. Somehow you drag your damaged body back to camp. The medics assess you and shake their heads. You're unfit for duty. Recommendation: discharge. You protest naturally. This isn't merely employment anymore. It's your identity. You are a soldier. You are Rome's shield. But your superiors don't care. Injured means useless. They discharge you, offer perfunctory acknowledgement, and send you away with a land grant and forced retirement. You withdraw to quiet existence far from battle cries and burning fortifications. You farm. You sleep. You eat boiled millet again. But tranquility doesn't bring peace. Most nights you lie awake haunted by faces of friends who never returned home. You gave Rome everything: your youth, your strength, your essence. In return, a broken body and a lonely plot of land. Because that's what Rome does. It demands everything, then forgets those who provided it. History won't record your name. It'll remember senators who debated while cities burned, emperors who watched provinces collapse sequentially, the cowards and talkers. But you were present when everything began unraveling. And the only reason Rome didn't collapse sooner was because of men like you.